Dear future fit girls, people usually think that getting fit is about half diet and half exercise, but actually both of these combined are only about 30% of it. Another 25% is getting good quality sleep, and another 300% is actually doing what you said you would. But since you clicked on this video, you're about to get a massive head start, because if you combine all the steps I'm about to share with you, it's not just going to make it easy for you to get fit, it's going to make it almost impossible to fail. You can apply these steps whether your goal is weight loss or weight gain, and personally, when I started using them, they transformed my physique from this to this. So yeah, they work. Step 1 is get motivated. There's always a spark that makes you decide that you actually want to start making a change. And even if that's, oh, I just want to look good, for the majority of people, there's actually a deeper reason why. So I encourage you to actually write this down, write down your reason why, actually take a minute to think about it, because it's going to make it a whole lot easier for you to actually stick to and achieve that goal. Ultimately, motivation is temporary, and let's be real, it only lasts a few days. So there's a system I like to use to set realistic goals in a way that makes it easy for me to actually achieve them. All you need to do is start with your big overarching fitness goal. Take that goal and break it down into smaller bite-sized chunks. And the process of continuously ticking off those smaller wins is gonna add up to get you to your end goal, and it's gonna make you feel like you're actually achieving something in the process. Just think about it. If you said to yourself that you needed to lose 10 pounds, that sounds a whole lot more intimidating than if you were to tell yourself that you needed to lose 1 pound and just do that 10 times. But the way we actually make this system effective is by adding specific dates to those smaller goals. So instead of saying, I want to lose 1 pound, say, I want to lose 1 pound in 2 weeks. That gives you a distinct deadline to reach that goal, so you're able to dial in other factors like your diet and your exercise so that you can actually meet that goal. And it doesn't have to be anything to do with weight either. So if your goal was to be able to run 10k, break it down into smaller goals. So say your first week you wanted to be able to run 1k, aim for that, and then over the next few weeks add on another 1k and another 1k, and over time it will just add up. I mean, to some extent it's just common sense, because if you wanted to go and run a marathon, you wouldn't literally just get up one day and go and run a marathon. You need to take time and actually build up to doing that, because if you don't tick off the smaller goals, then you won't be able to get to the bigger goal. Saying that, it's all very well setting these smaller goals, but if we don't have the right systems in place, then we're never going to be able to actually take those initial steps to even get to the small goals. So the next thing you need to do is break down any potential barriers that might get in the way of you taking those first steps. So if the only time you can work out is in the morning, lay your workout clothes out the night before so that everything's ready and you don't even have to think about it. You can just take your workout clothes and go. Or if you're someone like me who's super busy and struggles to find the time to actually cook healthy meals, meal prep. Because that way you can make nutritious meals in one session of cooking. You're going to save hours for the rest of the week, and you can literally grab and go. I feel like a big misconception about fit people is that they're not lazy. But things like meal prep is literally one of the laziest things you can do. I'm not cooking for the whole week. I cook once a week and that's it. And it saves so much time. So if you're not meal prepping, get on it. Another barrier that not many people think about is the actual foods that you have in your house. So if your goal is to lose weight, then having those sugary and high processed foods right at the front of the cupboard where you can see them every time you open it, it's probably not the best idea, because chances are you're just gonna grab the first thing there. But if you put those sugary and processed foods at the top on the back shelf of the highest cupboard in your house, chances are you're not gonna want to make the effort to go and get that stuff just for the sake of it. It's kind of like the saying out of sight, out of mind, but the idea is it's going to take you more effort to actually go and purposefully be unhealthy, and while you're doing that, you're going to be thinking to yourself, oh, this probably isn't the best decision. Whereas if that stuff was at the front of the cupboard, then your brain's not going to have that time to actually think about what it's doing. And from personal experience, as simple as it sounds, I can tell you this genuinely works. Believe it or not, simple changes like laying out your workout clothes the night before, preparing your breakfast the night before, or just not having as many sugary or processed foods in the house is enough for people to lose multiple pounds of fat in just a few weeks. And similarly from my perspective, because I'm currently doing a gaining phase right now, having those healthy, nutrient-dense foods just around the house makes it a lot easier for me to choose to have those rather than something that, yes, has more calories but is also not as healthy. But it's all well and good having this plan, but if you don't stick to it, then what was the point? Even though the little changes you're making right now, like leaving your breakfast out the night before, is gonna be a conscious mental effort, our goal is to make it so you don't even have to think about it. We want to build those healthy habits because when it becomes a habit, then it's just going to be streamlined and you'll do it automatically without even thinking. A lot of the time it's removing that decision fatigue that makes it so much easier to build the healthy habits and reach our final goal. Some simple things that can help is writing a shopping list, not going shopping when you're hungry. We've all been there, I know. And I'll be the first to admit that sometimes you just can't avoid it. Blocking out the times in your calendar where you're actually gonna do these things, so like the time that you're gonna go to the gym and work out, or the time that you're gonna do your food shop, stuff like that. And even sticking post-it notes on your wall, like of your reason why, of the things you're gonna get done today. I actually just started doing this recently, and because I'm a very visual person, it went such a long way. Like just having something on the wall that I could see every day, even if I didn't like read it, I knew it was there, and I was like, right, I know what I'm gonna do today. I need to get this done, I'm gonna stick to my goals, and this is how I do it. So if you're someone who's a visual learner like me, it can be a game changer. Of course, if you're someone who's never really eaten healthy or done much exercise before, then starting to change your diet and like avoiding junk food is gonna be hard. Like there's gonna be hard times and you need to be ready for that. Like when you had to stay back late at work one day and you were driving home and realised that you'd finished your last meal prep yesterday, so you've got no food in the house and you're passing the McDonald's drive-thru, and at this point it's really your last option. When you start giving in to temptation, you'll usually start falling into one of these 4 dangerous mindsets, and you could choose any of the following. Number 1, oh it won't hurt, I didn't really eat much the rest of the day anyway. Number 2, well I'll actually just start my diet tomorrow. Number 3, nah, one cheat meal won't hurt. Or number 4, maybe I'll just start dirty bulking. And it's at times like this where you really need to respect your why, because yes, ultimately one cheat meal won't hurt, but if you make a habit of saying that, then that one cheat meal is going to turn into 2, it's going to turn into 3, it's going to turn into an everyday kind of thing. And that is going to hurt your progress. You need to build up the ability to tell yourself no and to have that discipline with yourself. And a way you can do that is by anticipating all the excuses that you're going to make. And on top of that, you're going to practice saying no to all of them. There've actually been studies backing this up. Like when you go through situations in your head and you practice doing a certain action in response to those situations that come up, your brain can't really distinguish what's real and what's not. So when those situations do come up in real life, your brain has already gone through the situation and it knows how it's going to react. This can be a helpful tool, especially if you're someone who tends to think about food when they're lying in bed. If you practice taking yourself through the experience of saying no, then when those temptations come up, you'll be a lot less likely to actually fall for them. However, we're all human and we honestly can't rely on willpower to help us not give in to temptation 100% of the time. So you'd be much better off just avoiding the temptation in the first place, if possible. I know that sometimes this isn't possible. But the real cheat code to motivation and staying consistent is doing the thing so many times that it just becomes a habit, because habits are so powerful, they're so underrated and can literally change your life. Over time, you'll get to the point where you wake up in the morning and your workout clothes are all laid out nicely, your breakfast is already made, and you're just like, oh, I didn't even remember doing that. And that's when you know fitness has become part of your lifestyle. And when something's part of your lifestyle, you don't have to think twice about whether you do it or not, you just do. And that will make staying fit effortless. I mean, it might be hard to believe it right now, but you might eventually even start enjoying healthy foods and enjoying going to the gym or working out. I was thinking about making another video about all the healthy habits that have genuinely changed my life, because I know there are a bunch of like nonsense ones that people do out there that don't really do that much. But if you want to see that video, drop the word habits in the comments and I'll make it happen. Let's move on to the basics of how you're going to track your progress so that you know that you're actually getting closer to your goal. Whether that goal is to lose fat or build muscle, there's some fundamental strategies that you should be using to make sure that you're actually getting the most out of the effort that you're putting in. One of the easiest ways to track your progress is literally just by taking weekly progress photos. You can just do this on your phone. If you don't want anyone else to see it, then put it in your hidden photos. That's what I did, because I was kind of too self-conscious for the chance of anyone finding those photos. And when you look back in a couple of months, you'll be amazed at how far you've come. Another method of tracking that's particularly useful if you're focused on losing weight or gaining weight is doing regular weigh-ins. So personally, I do weigh-ins 3 times a week so that I can get a bit of an average for the end of the week. This is because your weight is going to fluctuate dramatically throughout the day, throughout the week, throughout the month, especially for women. So getting a weekly average is going to give you a better idea of what's actually going on with your body and how you're actually progressing towards your goals. An important note for this and the progress photos as well is to do it at the same time and fasted whenever you're doing it. So if you're doing 3 weekly weigh-ins, say Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday, then you do it fasted first thing in the morning to get more consistent readings. Because it's completely natural for your weight to fluctuate even over 1 kg throughout the day just because you're consuming water, you're consuming food, and it's sitting in your stomach, so you would expect your weight to be more at night than it is first thing in the morning. If you are tracking like this but your weight is suddenly higher for some reason and you're not sure why, it could be down to things like stress levels, water retention, because your body holds more water if you're more stressed, even if you haven't been to the toilet in the morning yet. So if you suddenly gained a lot of weight overnight or something like that, then there's usually a logical explanation to it. So it's important that you don't freak out even if you do see little fluctuations. I've actually written a couple of guides on both fat loss and bulking that has a chapter taking you through how to troubleshoot if you are having issues with your weight loss or your weight gain. So if this is something that you're struggling with, then I'll put them in the description for you to check out. Another thing that personally made a massive difference when I started tracking was my macros. So this is not for everyone, I'll just put that disclaimer out there right now, but as a minimum, if you're finding it hard to actually see the results you want, then tracking your calories and your protein intake is a must. To find out how many calories you should be eating, all you have to do is go to an online calorie calculator and literally just type in all your details, your height, your weight, your age, your gender, activity level, be honest, and it'll spit out an estimate of the daily number of calories that you need to eat to maintain your current weight. Now, you need to remember, this is just an estimate. It will be different for every person. So it's important to trial this by eating at that maintenance number of calories that it gives you for about a week or so. See what happens to your weight. If you lose weight, increase your calories a bit. If you gain weight, decrease your calories a bit. And through making those adjustments for the next couple of weeks, you'll land on your actual maintenance calories. Sadly, there's not really a more accurate or faster way of doing it, so it is gonna take a few weeks for you to land on that number if you don't already know it. But another method you could use, if you know that your weight hasn't been changing, chances are you are already currently eating at your maintenance calories. So you could just track what you're currently eating, figure out how many calories you eat each day normally, and that will be your maintenance number. Moving on from that, if you want to lose fat, then decrease that number of calories by 200 to 300. And if you want to gain weight and build muscle mass, then increase your maintenance calories by 200 to 300. I know those seem like really small calorie adjustments, but doing it this way means that you're going to maximize the amount of muscle growth you can see and minimize the amount of fat gain. And in terms of fat loss, you're going to maximize the amount of fat you're losing while also maximizing the amount of muscle mass that you can hang on to. In terms of macros, similar to calories, everyone's macros are going to be different, but in general, studies have shown that it's good to aim for at least 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight each day, and have 20 to 30% of your calories coming from fats, and the remaining calories are going to come from carbs. A few general rules when it comes to your nutrition is making sure that you get a wide variety of fruit and veg for your gut health, opting for minimally processed and more whole foods where possible, paying attention to the volume of your food. So if you're trying to lose fat, you're going to be in a calorie deficit, so opting for higher volume foods will make it easier for you to stay full and satisfied for longer, whereas when you're gaining weight, you basically want to do the opposite, so opt for more liquid calories, more nutrient dense foods, so it's lower volume but there's more calories in it. I'll put a list of food swaps on screen now so you get a bit of an idea of the little changes you can make. Another important thing to touch on is supplements, and you need to remember that supplements aren't essential, but they can be very helpful. Let me show you the supplements that are actually worth it. So, we've got the vegan clear protein, the greens, the clear whey. I usually have regular whey protein to help me hit my protein target for the day, but I got this one just to try out. It's the peach iced tea flavor and it is honestly so good.
It's got 21 grams of protein. I also have greens, which are very good for digestion, and I also just made a whole video about this, so check that out if you want to try them. Vegan clear whey protein, just so you know there's vegan options out there. I also take, ignore that. I also take creatine, which is helpful for anyone wanting to build muscle. And, oh, that's a mess. And I take omega-3s every day because they're really good for joint health, heart health, brain health, stuff like that. And also a daily multivitamin, but they're kind of running out. If I could only choose 3 supplements, I'd probably say the omega-3s, the multivitamins, and the greens powder, because you can get protein from other protein sources, but I personally find it a lot harder to get in like all my greens, and it's been helpful. Let's move on to the fun stuff. So the most important thing when it comes to your training is that you find a form of exercise that you actually enjoy. Yeah, actually enjoy, because if you don't enjoy it, you're never going to stick to it and you're never going to reach your goal. That being said, if you do have a particular goal in mind, like if you want to build muscle, you are going to have to do a certain form of exercise, because you're not going to build much muscle if the only exercise you're doing is running 10k every day. You're gonna have to do some resistance training. You're gonna have to lift some weights. If the reason that you don't want to start lifting weights, or at least not lifting heavy, is because you see all these bodybuilders and are like, I don't want to look that bulky, then you need to hear this. Because do you know how hard bodybuilders have to work to look like that? It is very hard. You're not just gonna go to the gym, pick up one weight and accidentally become bulky. It does not work like that. If you want to actually build curves, like if you're a girl and you want to build a booty, you gotta lift heavy, because if you don't, then you're literally not gonna build muscle. I know it can be a bit of a wake-up call if you've just been sticking to the light weights in the gym, but trust me, if your goal is to get a more toned and athletic physique, then lifting weights is what's gonna get you there. And if you still don't believe me, this was me before I started lifting weights and I was playing basketball as my only form of exercise, and this was me when I scrapped basketball and started lifting weights. There's a big difference. Note, food also played a massive role, but the weights did too. There's a reason that long distance runners look different to basketball players, look different to bodybuilders. It's all about the different styles of training. So you've got to choose a style of training that you enjoy and it's going to get you to your goal. Another thing that could technically be seen as a form of exercise is something called NEAT. So it stands for non-exercise activity thermogenesis. And basically, scrapping all the fancy words, it's the things you do throughout the day that burn calories that aren't actual workouts. It's like fidgeting, walking around the house, going to get your groceries, cleaning, breathing. You even burn calories while you're asleep. These little things can add up. So if you are a naturally fidgety person like me, then chances are you're gonna burn a lot more calories than someone who is less fidgety. That will impact your maintenance calories that we talked about earlier. So fidgety people generally have to eat more to maintain their current weight. It makes a lot of sense, but it's just something that people don't generally think about. The next thing that everyone thinks doesn't apply to them is getting good quality sleep. Sleep regulates your hormones, and when it comes to your fitness goals, whether that's fat loss or building muscle, these hormones basically determine everything. I know you're probably thinking, well, I don't have to worry about that because I do get good sleep. I've got one question for you. How long was that doom scroll? Anyway, subscribe if you're going to make that commitment to start changing your life, because I know you've got it in you, and this video is going to be really helpful for you next. See you there?